Welcome back to the channel. So glad to have you. Glad to see you. Pull up a chair, have a seat. Today we're going to carve monsters. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jim Haggart over on Instagram, but he carves all sorts of fun little chainsaw carving monsters. And his carvings are whimsical and fun, and I really enjoy them. And today we're going to try to imitate his style and the types of monsters that he does because they're really fun. It can be a fun exercise of practicing expressions and making paint jobs, because the paint jobs on these little guys really make them pop. I mean, this guy here is the one we're going to carve today, and we'll work on that eye, we'll work on those hands, those big feet, and a little bit of a butt in the back. He's a lot of fun, and we're going to do that today. So before I get too far into that, who is Jim Haggart? Take a look over here. This is Jim Haggart's Instagram channel. You can see the whimsical, fun types of things that he's dealing with all the time, right? He creates these awesome little carvings. And I've been following him since like 2023. I think I've been following him since then. When it comes to carving, right, whether you're a chainsaw carver or whether you're whittling or whether you're just wood carving in general, all of us are dealing with the same challenges in the same way. When it comes to someone who's new to carving, a chainsaw carver has a lot in common because they're trying to deal with the same form factor, right? They're trying to find a way to put something into a log, while a new whittler is trying to find a way to put something into a 1x1 stick of wood. And so generally speaking, a lot of his carvings have the same kind of shape that you're looking to find to put into a 1x1 stick. So if you're looking for inspiration, chainsaw carvers are a really great source to take a look at and see if some of their simpler carvings can be something that you can do with a knife, something that you might be able to do for fun. So we're going to look at Jim Haggart stuff today, and we're going to go through the list. We're going to find some faces. We're going to find some little monsters we might want to do. And yeah, definitely go over to Instagram, give him a like and a follow over there. But for right now, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so we're going to carve some little Jim Haggart monsters, right? And you can see some of these I've carved on the corner, like this guy's carved in the corner, and so is this guy. But these two here are carved on the square, which means I carved them in the block like so, like straight in, you know, and put the feet on the bottom like this one as well. But these ones are carved on a corner. I'm going to show you how to do these ones here today that are carved on a corner, because I feel like they get a little more motion to them. So they're carved like this on the corner of the block with the feet, you can see right there showing up, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to carve these guys here on the corner, and then we'll paint them up. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up from one corner halfway up, from that corner halfway up, and then we draw a straight line through the middle, or to the middle. Now you can continue all the way across if it helps you line things up, but this is the wood that we're going to be removing right here, okay? So all of this is got to get out of here. To do that, these feet are going to come up about 1/4 of an inch, okay? And then from there, they're going to go over to the outside, and that is the top of the foot. All right, that's a little bit taller than we want. We'll adjust that as we do it. We're just eyeballing this right now, okay? And this foot's going to come back here to about the midpoint, and then at midway, it's going to start to go up about 1 inch, round off like so, okay? So keeping that spot right there. There it is. We can just do it on this side. What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay, so coming back to about the midway, and then we're going to bring it up and out. And that's going to be our belly, right? That's relatively even, like so. And those lines are just to give us a general guidance, okay? So this belly is going to come out and up, and we're going to carve that front part here off. And so that's going to be how he stands, like so, right there, okay? And you can do one without hands. You can do one with hands. You can even add little claws on there if you want to spend some time decorating or adding some extra details. You can spend some time putting some little things in the feet there. But the biggest gist here is just how to get those feet back in the corner and how to do the butt. So let's start with that. So what we're going to do to start this is we're going to start doing V-cuts right here in the front. That's a little push cut and a push cut till they meet at the tip. And just continue to do this to remove a bunch of wood out as we go around the carving. No problem. I have been following Mr. Haggart for so long and admiring his carvings, and it was last night I was like, you know what? I wonder if he'd mind if I just did some in a video. I had sat down and I was carving a couple of guys just for me, just to mess around with expressions. I've been doing a lot of characters lately, and I wanted to mess around with expressions in a way that'd be quick and easy and like disposable. Like, how do you do a frown with a goofy tooth, and how do you do that? Like I thought, okay, I'll mess around with expressions and let's make some little monsters real quick. Because if you're gonna practice something, you might as well make something a little bit productive while you do it, right? So that was the goal here. So you can see I'm just chipping away the wood there. I am not taking anything out fancy yet, nothing complicated so far. I'm just getting this down, working it back in. And not even very far, not as far as we've talked about at least. Okay. So I've gotten about to the midpoint there. All right. You see where we're at? See how far down I've gotten? Now what I want to do is I want to pull out this corner here in the front. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to start by taking off this top corner here. So just going to very gently, nice small slices will make this a little bit easier on you. Okay, so we've gotten a good part of that out to where we can start to meet that line and start to meet that other line over here. I can do a little bit more over here to get close to that line, right, like so. Now we can start to cut in here, push the blade in between the grains here, and I'm just going to use my left thumb and just push down, and I'm going to move the carving up like so. Okay, I'm not pushing real hard. If I push real hard, I can lose control of the knife. That's how you cut yourself. So I'm going to gently work the hand like this, just firmly, and keep the blade in position like so, and just cut down into that. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, a bit of an angle right here, and just take that chip out. Nice and easy. Same thing on this side. Pushing it down in, take out a chip. We're just going to whittle away at it. You see? Get a little bit deeper. Get a little bit deeper. I'm going to go right to that corner this time. Okay? I'm going to redo this one right to that corner, right to that point where I finished cutting the opposite side, all the way up in there. Make sure you get that cut all the way. Okay? Now I'm going to cut up and in. So I'm going to cut up and into that corner there, right here. And let's see if we can chip this out. Rock it if you need to, until it just pops right out. And we have got a large chunk of wood out there for our feet. Okay, it's blocked in. We're starting to see some shape. You can see how he's gonna be standing, this big, bulbous, fat-bellied guy. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I like the way he's turning out already. I'm excited already. Now these feet are big and blocky, and it's too much. So starting this corner here, I'm gonna kind of 45-degree angle that and chip that off. The same thing on the other side, 45-degree angle, and chip that off. And then I'm going to work on bringing this belly in more. Okay, you can see like how these guys look here, and you can take a look at the overlay up here on the left. That overlay is the finished carving that we're doing now, and I like the overlay thing. I think the overlay thing works fantastic for folks. Take these little hard edges off on the carving. And then we're going to work on that belly as I just said we would, because I get distracted like a squirrel sometimes when I start doing something else. Okay. Rounding this belly off. I'm going to bring these feet in. These feet are too tall right now, so I need to shorten them up. So I'm going to come in like so. It's easier to 45 the feet like this right here on the corner, and then working in that way than it is to come straight across the top. Straight across the top can be harder because you're biting off more wood. So wait until you get less wood on top, like I just did there, by taking the corners first, and you should be able to get more done with less effort. That foot's looking better. There we go. A little bit of fluff right there. Sorry if I had to talk for a minute. I do that sometimes. I start carving and not thinking, and just chipping away at something. I'm just taking those angles off of the feet here. That way it looks like the feet are kind of sitting above the ground a little bit on the edges, right? Because if you see a foot sitting on the ground, the edges of the foot aren't completely touching, not flat. You're going to be rounded over just a little bit. So rounding over those edges gives it a more realistic look. See, this one's completely flat. I didn't do it, and I should have. This one I rounded over, so this one's going to look a little bit more realistic. He looks a little bit better. Let's go ahead and work on our butt on the back side. Not going to be hard to set it in. So we're going to create a little flat plane coming in, taking off a little bit on the back till we get like a 1/4 inch width or what have you. About a 1/4 inch width. Once we get that 1/4 inch width, we want to figure out where our butt's going to start. It's going to start around the bottom of our belly. We're going to start it about here. Okay? And from here, we're going to draw a line right down the center of the carving, all the way to the bottom. Okay? Now you can do this with a knife, or you can do this with a V-tool. If you've got a V-tool, that's probably easier. I'm going to do it with a knife to show you what we're talking about. We're going to start on one side and then bring that knife down at an angle. Excuse me. So I'm going to come in, like this is straight in line with the plane. I'm going to come in at this kind of an angle, just a bit off the side, and then just use the tip and draw that line so I can do the right side of a V, making sure I bring the bottom of this into that point, okay, into that point where we hit a finish line so that I can clip the whole thing out. If I don't, I'll leave it open at the bottom. It's going to be really hard to get it out. So now I'm going to do the same thing from the opposite direction, trying to make that tip line up where the tip was to the side, and then take that chip out. And if you got a V-tool, you can, like this is a V-tool, right? Large V-tool, you can easily just knock that out in a moment. That's what's wonderful about V-tools. So you can get real deep real quick. If not, you can just do that with your knife to get that depth that you want. Even with a V-tool though, it creates kind of hard lines. I'm still going to go back in here and I'm going to round those things and clean them up. So even with a V-tool, I would wind up doing this. So a V-tool is going to save you work, but on this particular instance, you'll wind up doing a little bit more anyway. In a lot of cases, it's like that, but I still love a V-tool. You don't realize how much you'll use one until you have one. Okay, so we got that line in. Easy peasy. Now we want to set in a butt shelf, right? To do that, what we're going to do is I'm going to come in at a 45-degree angle again, right here, okay? So there's that point, and I'm going to come in at a 45-degree angle over and a 45-degree angle in, and put a little chip cut right here for a bit of a butt shelf. Same thing on the other side, just the kind of opposite angle, right like so. Little butt shelf, okay? And then we're going to take off that hard edge over here, round it off some, and same thing. Doesn't like to come out all the time. If you need to adjust things, take your time. And there's our little butt shelf. It's not much, but it is just enough. All right, now there are saw marks everywhere on this carving. I'm going to go ahead and eliminate those saw marks real quick. If you've been around the channel long, you know I say this all the time. Saw marks do not take paint or stain the same as a part of the wood that's been touched with the blade. So before you get too far in your carving, you want to make sure you remove all of those saw marks so that you don't have to deal with them when you're at the painting stage or the staining stage and being like, oh no, I need to go get a knife and finish carving this fella. It's terrible. It's hard. It's terrible to deal with. Frustrating. Why do that now? You have this big flat area. It's easy. Just take a knife and just try to slice off just the surface. We don't need any of those pencil marks anymore. We can just eliminate that to the best of our ability. And there we go. We have now got that completely cleaned up. We got some good feet going in. There's some saw marks on the front of the feet here. We can take off like so. Take off that corner of the foot, corner of the foot, corner of the foot. Oh, I got a little rounding to do on that foot. Right there. Yeah. Okay. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. He's looking pretty good so far, right? So we got a good progress going on. Now we got to decide what kind of face we want to do. Do we want to do hands? I did this guy without hands. I did this guy here with hands, right? With the guy without hands, you can do a bigger face, and I put him over to the side a little bit, right? Just to make him a little more jaunty. And this guy here, I put little hands just holding himself right there, right? Looks kind of cute and whimsical. And we'll paint these guys here in a little bit, but they're fun. What do you want to do with your hands? What I suggest at this point is to head over to Mr. Haggart's website, right, to his Instagram channel, and take a look at all the faces he does. If you don't like those faces, go to Google and Google cartoon faces and look at the cartoon faces that are available and find one that you think that one's going to be pretty neat. I want to try that one. Or you can do the one that I'm going to do today. It's up to you. Do something that you're going to grow with, you know, or something that you're going to really enjoy, something that you're going to like, something that's shelf. I really love the look of that. This will be fantastic, and that's going to be fun. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off a little bit of wood right there in the front, and then each corner to set in roughly the shape of my head. That way I can remember more easily as I'm carving other parts. I'm going to take off this corner on the left and right side to about 1/4 of an inch flat plane right there. And I'm talking about the width of this flat plane right here when I say 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to do that, and once I get that 1/4 of an inch or so, then I'm going to round it. I'm going to take those hard edges off of the sides on each side and try to make it smoothish as best I can. Like so on that side. Looks pretty good, nice and round. Same thing on the other side. Just like that. Okay, now the same thing on the front here, front middle. We're going to take the big corner off, and then we're going to round it off as well. Okay, that makes things a good deal easier to work with when you're writing on the carving, those rounded edges. And so that's what we're doing there. We're making it easier to work with. Now we could just do really big hands like this right here, and then come up here to a little bit of a turn to give them small arms like that. And I kind of like that. That'd be fun. Let's do that. So let's do that. Let's give him another big old paw. You give big paws. And you just got to try and make it relatively even. It doesn't have to be perfect because this is a tiny little monster. And he's going to be jaunty. He's going to have his hands to one side or the other. You know, it's not going to be completely even. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Don't get stuck in the fact that it's not perfectly symmetrical. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical. You don't have to beat yourself up over little things. Now, what we're going to do on this is we want the hands to stand up taller than the rest of the carving. So we need to remove wood around those hands to do this. When doing that, the thing that I like to keep in mind is this, okay? If I am carving into wood, let's say that this is the flat surface of the wood, right? These are the wood fibers down here, right? It's all the depth of the wood. If I'm carving into wood, I want to carve a line of wood and then remove all this stuff. What I don't want to do is I don't want to have that wood being angled down and in like so, where I've got this shelf hanging out, because then I have to round it over and try to fix it. Instead, what I'd rather do is when I'm carving into this wood, I cut a line in a little bit of an angle towards the open spot so that the edge of the hand comes over and comes down outward a little bit. Not much, just a little bit, so that when I remove this wood here, I've got a bit of a shelf there. It's more stable, it looks better. And so when we're carving this, you want on this hand, let's say, right? I want to be angled outward. So I'm going to be angling the knife a little bit the direction like so, so that that flat plane is not exactly flat on the outside edge. It's angled up towards the higher portion of where the wood's going to be. Does it make sense? I think that makes sense. I think I've explained it well enough. Hopefully I have. If not, just do what I do. So I'm going to start right here in the middle, and like I said, angled, not straight in, angled back a little bit, because this side's going to be the side that's removed, this side's going to stay. I angle it slightly back and just rotate that carving in my hand and bring that around. I'm not going very deep, just slightly in. Same thing here. Like so. And then I'm going to carve down to it, carve up to it, however you want to do so, to remove wood. And it doesn't look pretty when you're in the middle of cutting things. Some folks don't remember that, and they think, oh, my cuts don't look great. My cuts don't look pretty. What does this look like right now? What does that look like? It looks like a hot mess. It absolutely does. You are learning. You are growing. It doesn't have to look great right off the bat. Take your time to make it look great. Take your time to recut. And then get better at knife work. I am working at getting better at my knife work. I see some carvers, and they are so much better than me, and they can make a perfect cut and then line that cut up with another cut, and it comes in perfect, and they just meet up just absolutely beautifully. And oh my gosh, they're saving themselves so much work. They're not recutting and recutting. But the amount of work it's taken for that carver to get to that point where they can do that is not something to scoff at. It's not something you need to be expecting yourself to be accomplishing when you're new and using YouTube tutorials to get new projects for. You know, it's not something you should be expecting from yourself. Even if you've been doing it for a while, I think that you're still going to have little fuzzies that pop up. Like you can see, that looks far better than it did a little bit ago, but it's still not perfect. Okay, I like that hand. That's a big, beefy, it's a fun style paw. We're going to do the same thing over here for the other one. We're not going to worry about whether or not that thing looks good part of the way through. We're not going to concern ourselves with whether or not we don't do the cut perfectly. How much does wood cost you? Maybe $1 a stick. It's not that much. If we mess it up, we can get another stick, we can start again. Rather than do that, practice the face on it anyway. Take the hands off it if you messed up, and do one without hands. I did one without hands just for fun. Just I want to do a bigger face, and I didn't want to have room for arms in there. I just did a big old face, right? Do that if you want to, because I promise you this, the paint job on these guys, that's going to really set them off. That's going to be the thing that does the biggest bang for buck with how these look, is the paint job. Yeah, I'm digging it. With these smoothing that plane out towards the hands is really the biggest thing to making it look more natural. And what I mean is, like, see how it looks sunk in everywhere? We need to make it look like it's not sunk in, and instead like the hands are sitting on top of the body. And that usually means removing parts of the body to do that. Looks more natural there, right? We're gonna keep going. Bring that shoulder in. Like, let's give him a bit of a head, maybe. Maybe he's not gonna have one big heavy body. Maybe this guy's gonna have a bit of a shoulder here. Like so, right? That could be fun. I like that. Okay, take off that front portion right there. Rounding. I want to redo this leg area too a little bit, because I don't like the way it looks yet. So now we've freed up that arm a good bit. You follow? We have removed wood from here till those look like they're sitting on top of the body rather than sitting, just kind of sunk in, So now, let's look at these legs again here, right? I want to bring these in at a curved angle. I want them to have a bit of legs and not just be belly on down. So, kind of curving it in, swooping it in and out, and chipping out what I leave behind. Create a flat plane here in front. That's where we're going to put our leg definition on. That flat plane that's created right there in the front. We're going to put a crease in there for our legs, because we got it like our legs separated in the back. We don't have our legs separated in the front. So we're going to separate them from about this point right here down to the feet. You can just use a V tool to do that if you want to. You can use a knife. Start at the top, angle it over, and bring the knife down. Start at the top, angle it over, bring the knife in. Chip that out if you need to. And then I'm going to do the same thing again and just deepen it up from the other side. That's not bad, okay? Now, just like we did the other side, we do that same little V-cut thing here. And I call it a butt shelf on the other side. But it's not really a butt shelf. It's kind of like the crease where the legs come together. And if you look on cartoon characters that are anthropomorphic, but like they don't have a gender, basically, you'll see that same kind of crease on them, like on Bugs Bunny. On Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck or something like that, you'll see that same kind of crease. We're going for like a cartoonish kind of character here. So that's what we're doing, and that looks pretty good. I don't mind it a bit. Alrighty, now, do we want to round off the top of this head, or do we want to make him a flat top? What do we want to do? Round off this back portion here, bring that head in a little bit. And I think we're going to round off the top of that head, but let's think about what we're going to do for drawing our eyes. Okay, I have found my inspiration. My inspiration is going to be this guy right here. I like the look at that. I think that's fun. So we're going to do a big old eye right there in the front, and I'm going to start to round these edges off on the top here first. And we're going to do that kind of frilled hair thing going on. We'll see what we can do there. So take those hard edges off all the way around. Remember, this is an inspired by kind of carving. It doesn't have to be an exact replica. We want to do something that's uniquely our own, but using somebody else's artwork to inspire us because we like their style, because we admire the way that they're doing things, we admire their creativity, and we're going to use their creativity to fuel our own. So if you see something that you want to use to like go further or do more with, do that. Express that, like go down that path, you know. This is part of the thing, because creativity is not as restrictive as people sometimes think that it is. When it comes to being creative, all of us are learning from, being fueled by, and playing off of each other all the time. In this instance, with like using Jim Haggart's carvings, I am talking to him, making sure he's like aware of the fact that I'm doing it, and I'm doing it consciously, right? I'm using it as a learning experience or learning experiment. Okay, I've rounded that off, not too hard, just a little bit, right? And with that done, now I'm going to put some V-cuts into it in the front here, and all the way around, all the way around the outside edge, right? Because like, how do we, with a knife, replicate what he does on a larger carving with a chainsaw or a Dremel, or you use power carving? So he's got different implements that are going to create different results. But that is something we can do that's somewhat similar, right? And that's fun. That's stupid focus. So that's something we can do that's kind of somewhat similar, right? And it's fun. And look at the shadows it creates. That's neat, you know? That'll be really fun. I like this guy. He's going to turn out fun. So take that hard edge off there. I just seen that, look at that. I'm like, oh, look at the shadow that creates. That's too much of an edge. Oh, I got one over here too. There we go. Okay. So let's do that big eye right across the front. So we're going to do a nice big arch for the top of an eyelid. Okay. Those outer edges can kind of come down, and then underneath that, we come over with that one like so. Okay. So we're going to carve this top line first, and then we're going to carve the bottom line, and we're going to carve up to the top line. So the top line is resting on top of the bottom line. It's like the upper eyelid is on top of the lower eyelid. That's what we're doing on a regular person. So that's what we're going to do on this as well. I'm going to start in the middle, coming straight in, and just carve around the outside edge. Do the same thing from this side. Come right-handed, I turn that carving like so. Okay. Now before I do that bottom line, I'm going to go ahead and take this out to set that in, much like I would do the hood on that Gnome Ranger, you know, like so, like so. And now if we need to redraw that line here, we can, but that upper eyelid then will sit on top of our lower eyelid right here. It's big ol' eye. Coming straight in from one side all the way to the other side. And you can see, even though I'm straight in, I'm still coming at a bit of an angle, just a little bit, because when I remove wood from one side, like I drew earlier, I want to make sure there's a little bit of an angle there. And I'm doing that every time. Okay. Excuse me. So removing wood off the bottom of that. Right? That's a good look so far, but right now it kind of looks like a visor almost, maybe, rather than an eye. We want to round this eye. So I'm going to sink my knife in on this corner right there. I'm going to do the same thing along the top eyelid, and then I'm going to take that chip out right there on the edge, okay? And the same thing on this side here. Sinking that knife in that corner. Sinking that knife in that corner like so. And then I'm going to take that chip out right in that outer edge, okay? Now we started to round that off. It's starting to look more like an eye. We need to deepen along the top here. We need to deepen along the bottom. And take your time. There's no rush on this. Then around those edges that you made. As best you can. Okay. Now we've got a mostly rounded eyeball in there. That's looking pretty good, huh? Now I'm going to be looking at my reference photo again, so I can see how that looks. I like the bags that he has under that eye. Let's see if I can replicate that. So I'm going to tuck those bags up in underneath that eyelid, okay? So I'm going to make sure that eyelid comes down here, past that edge, past the edge. I'm going to tuck a bag up underneath there. And then I'm just going to V-cut along that line I drew. And that gives that eye a little bag. Like so. That's looking pretty good. I like that. So we got a little bag for the eye. And now, how do we squeeze in our mouth? And if you don't want to do a mouth, you could just leave a big eye. Maybe that's all you want to do. If that's all you want to do, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can just do the big eye. But I'd like to do a mouth and maybe one, like he's got a couple teeth there. Maybe I'll just do one tooth, right? And maybe he will have a big, wide smile. Like so. And maybe we'll put one big, stupid tooth right there. What do you think? I think that looks goofy and fun. And that is definitely like a Jim Haggart inspired carving. So I'm going to do that. I like this. This is going to be good. Okay. Carving right along that line. Right like so. And then following it back around. Back around. We even take out, yep, right there where that tooth is, same spot, because that bottom lip needs to stick out. The tooth is behind that bottom lip because it's coming from inside the mouth. So that bottom lip is on the outside of that tooth. Okay. Now you could do this real easy with a V-tool if you had a V-tool. Another little trick we can do is on this corner of the mouth, you put a little line right there and then carve up to it to make a little indentation. Okay, and do the same thing here, but maybe a bit deeper. You see how that just gives him a bit of expression, a bit more, right? Let's deepen this one up over here too. Like so. So you can see that starts to open up that smile a little bit, right? And he might not even need that tooth. But I like the idea of the tooth. So let's go ahead and attempt that tooth. So I'm going to flatten that area out. You know what? I'm not going to do that tooth. I'm just going to give him an underbite. Yeah. Look at that. I'm going to have that come down. Oh, I love this. And this is what you got to be able to do. You got to be able to adapt to what you're carving, to how it's turning out and looking, and say, you know what? That underbite is perfect. Look at that underbite. Well, how fun is that? Yeah. So anyway, he turned out fantastic. Alrighty. Now we've got that done. That's what I wanted to show you how to do. If you want to, you can add all kinds of details. You can add fingers on this hand if you want to. You can get real detailed here, right? So we could put that as like a thumb and another finger and another finger, right? And to do that's really easy. Let's just put a V cut here, here, and then a relief cut. Same thing. V cut, V cut, relief cut. Okay. And right behind that, we do kind of a V cut, but now we're going to come at a shearer angle, right? And so he's got some fingers on here now. A bit of a V cut, shearer angle. Okay. And now we can round off the hard edges of those fingers. However you want to do that. I love that underbite, by the way. You're like, I wonder if Johnny liked that. And you didn't pick up when I was laying down. I like it. The underbite looks great. Oh, I'm a goofball. I know I am. I'm sorry, folks. Okay. So there we go. Now we've added some big fingers on that hand. And that looks pretty neat. So we can do the same thing on the other side if we want to. Or we could leave it. We could just have one hand knothy, one hand doobie. Well, let's go ahead and put some little V cuts on there, right? Let's do this one here. Would match it from the other side. Well, you can relax. Or you can do a claw. You can do little claws if you wanted to. And let's do one there. And that shear angle a little bit more to free up how that finger comes in. And rounding edges. And same thing up here. Rounded edges. Okay. So we've got a monster with some good claws. You can also take your knife if you want to, put some hashes right there for claws and the toes. You can try separating them out. If you got a V tool, just maybe put 2 big hashes right there, or use your knife and do 2 V cuts right there on the toes, and that'll add a little bit more detail. And that is all we got going. Now, when you get a carving done, you'll see there's all these little fuzzies everywhere, right? Those fuzzies are terrible. If you want to, you can take the time to go back through here and try to clean them up and carve them off, and that will work. But another trick to do is to take him over to the bathroom and wash him, and you'll be amazed at what washing and carving can do. So I'm going to go wash this carving along with these 2 guys. I need to paint them as well, and I'll show you what they look like in just a minute. There we go. He is all washed up, and this is simply about 2 minutes of washing with hand soap and just scrubbing the little bad boy, and yeah, he turned out fantastic. Before you go away, we got the carving done, but I want to go over painting just a little bit, okay? So bear with me for a few minutes while I go over painting, because these guys here really pop once you get them painted. The process for painting these are pretty simple. It's 4 steps, and paint it all black, watered down, and just coat the entire carving, top, bottom, left, right, all of it. Once it's dry, you're going to dry brush the Admiral Blue. Wipe the brush off as much as you can to where there's only barely a little bit of paint left on the brush, and then just lightly flick it across the surface. You're not looking at the cracks and crevices when you're dry brushing. You're just looking to brush that across the surface and leave barely a sheen of paint across it, right? We're going to heavily dry brush, and as you can see here, we get a light colored blue, of dark blue across the whole thing, but you can still see that nice dark black in the crevices. Once we get that done and it's dry to the touch completely, we can clean our brush up, dry the brush up, and then we can get our Provence blue, to start doing the next step of dry brushing. And with the Provence blue, we're going to lightly dry brush across the top. And I promise you that having the multiple layers of dry brushing, the effect does make it richer and deeper and really looks wonderful. So again, get that brush as clean as you can, dry brush it, as in like get all the paint off the brush as much as you can till there's very little on there, and then just go across it, lightly brushing the surface all the way around the entire carving, top, bottoms, left, right. And once you get that done, dry them up to the touch, and we'll go ahead and paint the eyeball. The eyeball is very simple. White for the base, and then you're going to take pink and you're going to do that ball and make that ball a little bit wider than you want the pupil to be, because when you come back in with the black for the pupil, you'll just be able to do that, put the black in, and your eye will be completely done. If you want to add a little bit more depth, you can put a little line of black across the top of the eyelid, right underneath the eyelid, and it really adds to it. Okay, and that is our little guy all finished, and he turned out absolutely fantastic. I really enjoy him. I like that one eye. I think he's gonna look really neat on the desk. But thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I really do appreciate you. Thank you to Jim Haggart for allowing me to feature him on the channel a little bit. I reached out to him just last night and I said, hey, do you mind if I do a video tutorial on this and like kind of show how to do your carving? He's like, you know, that's fine. And most people are like that in the wood carving community. Most people are just like affable and easygoing and easy to get along with. It's just you want to make sure you give credit where credit is due. When it comes to designing carvings, we are all cribbing off of each other in so many ways and creating something new while we do that. Identifying that, knowing that's what's happening, is something that's integral to this creation process, because when you see it, when you see it like and how it works, you can purposefully go out and do it. And that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate your time. If you like this kind of content, like the video, subscribe to the channel, head over to Instagram, give Jim Haggart a follow, and then give me a follow as well while you're there, and Facebook as well. And other than that, I'll see you folks next time. Thank you so much. Bye.